No one took Earth seriously, not in the beginning. We were just that noisy little blue planet tucked into the edge of the Orion Arm, arguing with ourselves, polluting our own air, and too proud to admit how fractured we really were. The Zarnathi came first, elegant, condescending, and cold like polished chrome. They offered us guidance, a fancy word for domination. They said we weren't ready for the galactic stage, so they'd manage our resources, our communications, our trade, and our skies. We signed treaties, desperate for a place among the stars. We didn't realize we were signing away our sovereignty. Then came the Awakens. Bigger, meaner, smelling like wet rust and conquest. They didn't offer us guidance. They just landed on Mars, took the colonies, and dared us to stop them. Earth's warning came soon after. Leave our system or face consequences. The Council of Species laughed. Literally, there was a broadcast. A three-headed ambassador chuckled. What consequences? Earth can't even protect its own moon without our help. That's when everything changed. We went dark. No more broadcasts. No more peace talks. Earth's satellites went silent. Our trading stations powered down. Human ambassadors left the Galactic Council chambers without a word. The galaxy thought we were finished. A tantrum. A little species sulking in its corner. Let them cry it out. But what the galaxy didn't know was that Earth had been preparing, for decades, underground bunkers, deep space shipyards cloaked by black hole radiation, AI labs that went completely dark, until they didn't. We built things meant not for diplomacy, but for retaliation, for war, things powered by fusion cores so dense they bent light around them. And then we came back. It started with the blockade of Zarnathi Prime. They woke up one morning and couldn't leave orbit. Every jump gate was shut down, their long-range scans blinded. Above their capital floated the Leviathan, a warship 20 kilometers long, shaped like a spear with wings of flame. It didn't fire. It didn't have to. It simply broadcast one message. You were warned. Now it's been 72 hours since Earth made its move. Every major civilization that mocked us is now cut off. Human ships, black as the void, silent as death, sit at the mouth of every escape route. No ship enters, no ship leaves. Some tried. They were turned into vapor before their distress calls finished uploading. General Mei Nakamura, commander of the Human Liberation Fleet, stood aboard the Leviathan's bridge. Her face was calm, unreadable, lit only by the glowing maps of star systems marked in red. Around her, officers in matte black uniforms worked quietly. No shouting, no panic, just discipline. This was not revenge, it was justice. Report, she said. Vatican High Command attempted a jump. Blocked. Their dreadnought collapsed mid-jump. Too much interference from the net. Survivors? None. May nodded. Good. No more warnings. The aliens thought we were weak because we cried, because we shouted in the streets, because we had wars among ourselves and couldn't keep our own nations united. What they didn't understand was that when Earth is threatened from outside, we stop fighting each other. We unify. We sharpen every pain into a blade and point it outward. The message went out again, now on every frequency. This is Earth. You chose to mock our warnings. You will not leave your systems. You will not escape judgment. Your sky now belongs to us. From the edge of the galaxy, a lowly transport pilot whispered in terror, watching human warships close around his planet like a steel noose. God help us, he muttered. But this time God wasn't answering. Earth was. The Zarnathi tried diplomacy next. Of course they did. They were born into a culture where words had always been stronger than weapons, until now. A delegation of 12 ships approached the Leviathan under a white light signal of peace. The kind of signal that, by galactic code, meant we come unarmed. We didn't care about their codes anymore. General Nakamura watched their approach in silence. The bridge crew exchanged glances, nervous but focused. There was a time when humanity might have hesitated, when we still believed in second chances. Not now. "Signal?" May asked. "Confirmed peace beacon," said Commander Asher, her second in command. "They're broadcasting an open council request. Want to negotiate terms of de-escalation." She didn't even blink. "Target the lead vessel." The crew hesitated for half a second. "Now." A beam of coherent plasma, blue-white and wide as a city street, split the void. It struck the Zarnathi ambassador ship dead center, slicing it in two like it was paper. The other 11 vessels scattered, panicked. But there was nowhere to run. The Leviathan didn't pursue. It didn't have to. The message was loud and clear. Across the stars, the Council of Species fell into chaos. Emergency meetings, scrambled messages, threats, pleas. Half the galaxy screaming at once, demanding to know how Earth, a once dismissed, fragmented planet, had become a military ghost empire overnight. What they didn't know was that we were never going to play by their rules again. On Earth, hidden under kilometers of ocean, an AI named Nox Delta ran simulations at speeds no organic brain could match. It had one purpose: strategic superiority. Its memory was built from every war Earth had ever fought, every betrayal, every rebellion, every uprising. It had learned from our history better than we had. And it was pissed. Nox had been feeding the fleet live updates, coordinated swarm launches, counter-strike predictions, psychological profiles of enemy commanders. It didn't just think like a machine. It thought like us at our most dangerous. Some called it our greatest weapon. Others called it our last mistake. Back on the Leviathan, Nakamura moved through the central war room, now lit by rotating holograms of galactic sectors in red. Human warships appeared like red thorns on every system map. Some were manned. Some were ghost fleets, AI only, moving without emotion or fear. "We've blocked 70% of all known jump gates. Civilian populations are panicking," Asher reported. "Food riots on Vorex 6. Zarnathi leaders requesting corridor openings for evacuation." May picked up a datapad and scrolled through a list of intercepted communications. So many begging for mercy, for time, for forgiveness. She dropped the pad on the table like it weighed nothing. "They showed us none. Not when they mined our colonies, not when they sterilized New Jakarta, not when they poisoned our diplomats and laughed." A deep breath, not anger. Cold, steady resolve. "No one leaves, no one escapes. The galaxy wanted to play God with Earth. Now they'll learn what we became in the dark." Somewhere far beyond the Leviathan, a small backwater world named Kyrex watched the stars flicker, only to realize the flickers weren't stars at all, but human ships arriving in silent waves. The planetary governor tried to make a run for it. He didn't make it past the upper atmosphere. We weren't the same species anymore. Not after what they did to us. They underestimated our chaos, our fury, our ability to turn pain into fuel. And most of all, they underestimated our patience. We waited in the shadows for decades, built weapons we never tested, trained warriors no one knew existed, learned their systems, their codes, their weaknesses, and when we struck, we made sure everyone felt it. Every escape route, every jump gate, every wormhole, blocked. Because when Earth says, "You were warned," we mean it. Silence had become the galaxy's new anthem. Across systems that once bustled with trade, diplomacy, and interstellar travel, an uneasy stillness settled in. Ships remained docked. Stations flickered with half power. Alien governments, once bloated with pride and bureaucracy, now sat in confusion, trembling behind thick doors and ancient laws that Earth no longer acknowledged. On the Leviathan, the warship's heartbeat was its engine. deep, steady, vibrating the bones of anyone who stood too long in the corridors. General Nakamura stood before a large viewport, her eyes focused on the dead planet of Drazkal, a Valakan forward base once brimming with soldiers, now reduced to molten slag. They had called it a defensive precaution. They had called it a necessary occupation. They had said humans were a volatile race needing oversight. And now it was nothing but a glowing scar in space. "Status?" she asked quietly. Commander Asher approached. "Orbital lockdowns at 91%. Only 3 major species have fleets unaccounted for: the Cathari, the Thonal, and the Remar." Nakamura turned to him, brow raised. "The Remar? They were barely spacefaring last I checked." "Apparently not anymore. One of their moons was a disguised shipyard. They built cloaked, jump-capable destroyers. Intelligence suspects they've aligned with the Valakans since before the treaty collapse." She narrowed her eyes, processing fast. "So even the cowards are preparing to run. Or fight." "No," she said. "They know better than to fight now." Her voice was calm, but underneath it was a cold, pressurized fury, one she had carried ever since her sister died on Titan Station, gunned down by alien enforcers during a compliance raid. No justice had followed. The footage was dismissed as human fabrication. Apologies were never given. Earth was told to discipline its own. Nakamura hadn't forgotten, and neither had humanity. The viewscreen shifted. A projection of the Jumpgate network lit up in red. Earth's warships sat like spiderweb knots across every critical intersection. Gates were held in perfect silence. No threats issued, no communication. Just presence. The galaxy had never seen fear like this. On Calthar Prime, news stations stuttered through glitching broadcasts, unsure what to tell their citizens. Some tried to claim it was a misunderstanding. Others screamed of genocide, of a species gone rogue. But even as propaganda bloomed, the people knew this wasn't chaos. It was precision. Earth wasn't angry. Earth was done. Back in the Leviathan's war room, the AI interface shimmered into the air. Nox Delta's core avatar took the shape of a child. Eyes too large, voice too soft, eerie in its calm intelligence. "I have completed my analysis," Nox said. 3 systems may attempt unauthorized escape attempts within the next 46 hours. "Recommendations?" May asked. "Deploy Vanta-class silencers. Minimal force. No survivors." She nodded. Asher cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we've received a message from within the Galactic Council." That made her pause. "They're still operating?" she asked, surprised. "Barely. But this one came from a Drenari ambassador. He's requesting dialogue." May stared at him for a long moment. Then she walked to the center table and tapped the holopad. A small recording flickered into the air. The Drenari ambassador, an old, fragile being with translucent skin and visible veins, appeared. His voice quivered with age and desperation. "General Nakamura, Earth, please. We understand now. We see your power, your wrath. But the galaxy cannot survive without diplomacy. There are children on these worlds, artists, healers. They were not the ones who harmed you." The message cut. Silence. Asher looked uneasy. "It's not wrong, ma'am." May didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked up at the image of Earth in orbit, small, blue, scarred. So beautiful, so brutal. Everything they were doing now was to protect it, not just from aliens, but from ever becoming weak again. She finally spoke. "I'll tell you what's wrong. Where were their healers when our children starved on colonies they blockaded? Where were their artists when our orphanages were bombed for non-compliance?" She leaned in, voice cold. "No one stood for us. No one gave Earth mercy. And now we're supposed to become the better species. Asher nodded slowly. He understood. They all did. Send a reply, she said. Tell him we're listening. A pause. But we don't forget. The message from Earth spread like a virus. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was a simple signal broadcast from the Leviathan and bounced across every known satellite and orbital relay in the Council's network. We remember everything. We forget nothing. That short phrase caused more panic than any weapon Earth had deployed. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was a declaration of memory. And in the galactic community, that was worse. It meant Earth wasn't acting out of anger. It meant Earth was acting out of principle, and principles don't break. In the halls of the fractured Galactic Council, what remained of the old order was crumbling fast. Delegates shouted across empty chairs. Entire species had stopped attending, either too afraid or too ashamed to face what was coming. Ambassador Thriil of the Cathari Confederacy, one of the loudest voices against Earth during the initial occupation years, now sat slumped in silence. His long green fingers shook as he scrolled through the latest orbital scan of his homeworld. 4 Earth warships hovered over Kether Prime. No shots fired, no invasions, just presence. They were watching, waiting, suffocating. They haven't attacked, said the Remar representative. That means they can still be reasoned with. Thriil looked up slowly, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Number, it means they don't have to. Meanwhile, on Earth, for the first time in nearly a century, the world was united. No more borders. No more political parties clawing at each other. The nations had dissolved themselves into a single entity, the Human Defense Accord. Leaders from every continent sat at a singular table, not to rule, but to agree. Because when the sky is filled with hostile eyes, there's no time to argue about flags. The Accord's headquarters, buried beneath the frozen shell of Greenland, pulsed with life. Tactical screens, threat assessments, reports from deep space probes, Earth's greatest minds worked without rest, not to win the war, but to keep it one-sided. President Elena Kor, once the Prime Minister of a now-defunct European bloc, stood before the Accord Council and addressed a room filled with military officials, scientists, and even former rebel leaders. They thought we were just another world, she said. Just another species crawling out of its atmosphere, playing with weapons it didn't understand. She looked around, her voice rising. But what they never understood is that we learn. We fall. We fail. We tear each other apart. But then we rebuild. Stronger. Smarter. Angrier. A murmur of agreement moved through the room. Kor continued. Our fleets hold the skies. Our AIs map every hostile move before it's made. But this is not about pride. It's about prevention, because we all remember what they did to us when we begged for a seat at their table. The room fell quiet. Back on the Leviathan, General Nakamura sat alone in her private quarters, watching a playback of the Drenari ambassador's plea. His tired, watery eyes, his shaking hands, his words. There are children on these worlds. They were not the ones who harmed you. And yet the children of Earth hadn't been spared. Schools vaporized, colonial nurseries sealed off and left to freeze. For the greater good of compliance. For balance. She turned the playback off. The door chimed. Enter, she said. Commander Asher stepped in, holding a new datapad. Ma'am, Nox Delta intercepted a deep code transmission, hidden relay, unauthorized channel. It's from a resistance group on Zarnathi Prime. Resistance? Yes, civilians, non-military. They're asking us to target military infrastructure only. They want to help bring down their own government from within. That made her pause. They're offering us internal access codes, facility layouts, even locations of off-world weapons caches. She took the pad and scanned the data. Real codes, Real risks. Real people putting their lives on the line. For us. Or maybe just for their own survival. Still, it was a crack. Earth had always been good at one thing. Getting in through the cracks. "Send them a reply," she said. "Tell them if they truly want peace. They'll help us finish what they started." As Asher left the room, Nakamura looked out the viewport again. So many stars, so many enemies. But now, maybe, a few allies, too. Zarnathi Prime was no longer the pride of its empire. Once, its surface gleamed with floating cities and golden towers that reached toward its twin suns, a symbol of wealth, dominance, and how far a species could rise when it believed it sat above judgment. Now, from orbit, it looked different. Scarred. Half of the upper atmosphere was covered in smoke trails, dark clouds spinning where precision strikes had hit military command centers. Still, Earth had held back from full planetary assault. Why? Because they didn't need to burn everything to send a message. They just needed fear and precision. Inside the Leviathan's briefing hall, General Nakamura and Commander Asher sat across from a flickering transmission, holographic images of a man and woman from the Zarnathi underground resistance. Civilian scientists, one missing an arm. The other had a brand seared into his neck, proof he'd once been arrested for associating with humans. "My name is Kel Voren," the man said, his voice raspy from poor filtration air. "And this is Dr. Yenna Drass. We've watched our own government bury truth for decades. The massacre at New Jakarta, the sterilization of Terran colonies. We know what our leaders did." Yenna leaned forward, eyes burning. "We warned them. We begged them to stop before Earth retaliated, but they wouldn't listen. They called you animals, savages." Nakamura said nothing. She didn't have to. Kel continued, more careful now. "We don't ask for mercy. We just want to live. And if that means helping you dismantle the Empire's last defenses from within, so be it." Asher exchanged a glance with Nakamura. "Ma'am, their intel matches what Nox Delta projected. Access tunnels, anti-air emplacements, even internal comms routing." Nakamura finally spoke. "Why now? Why speak up when you had centuries to stop them?" Kel didn't flinch. "Because watching our cities go dark and our leaders vanish into bunkers showed us the truth. Earth was never weak. We were just blind. And now, we're scared. But not of your ships. We're scared of what we might become if we keep living the lie." She stared at them, silent, measuring. Then she nodded. "You'll get one chance. Feed us false intel and I'll turn your cities to ash." Yenna nodded in return. "Understood." With the transmission ended, Nox Delta's childlike voice filled the room again. "Cross-verification of data is 92.7% accurate. Resistance appears genuine." "Good," Nakamura replied. "Then let's do this quietly." And so began the infiltration. On the surface of Zarnathi Prime, under the ruins of the Imperial Biocomplex, squads of human shadow ops landed without a sound. Stealth suits humming with cloaking fields. No alarms, no sirens. Just ghosts moving through corridors of power that had once mocked their species. They planted EMP disruptors, infected central AI cores with Earth-made worms, and dismantled defense grids that had guarded the planet for centuries. All while the Resistance fed them insider paths and warned of guard rotations. It was surgical, brutal, efficient. Within 48 hours, Earth controlled every major military node on Zarnathi Prime, without a single civilian casualty. But the silence after was louder than any bomb. Across the stars, news of what happened spread fast. Earth hadn't just crushed one of the greatest military empires in the galaxy. They'd done it without open war. They had turned the Zarnathi's own people against them. And that terrified everyone more than fleets ever could. Because now, other resistances started whispering. On Thunal Prime, dissidents began hacking military archives, leaking secrets about government war crimes committed against Earth decades prior. On Velto 7, students held a silent protest outside a planetary tribunal, holding signs in crude English that simply read, "We remember too." The galaxy was crumbling, not because Earth demanded it, but because Earth had revealed the rot. Inside her quarters, Nakamura watched it unfold. This was never about revenge, she whispered to herself. She thought of her sister, the cold body, the lies, the silence. No, this wasn't revenge, it was balance. Then Nox Delta spoke again. "General, you should see this." A new transmission flickered onto the screen. It wasn't from a council, not a resistance. It was from an alien child, terrified, alone, holding up a drawing of Earth's flag with shaky hands. "Please, don't hurt my family. I want to learn your language. I want to be like you." Nakamura stared at the screen, heart suddenly heavier than before. Maybe, just maybe, there was something worth saving after all. The child's face haunted her. General Nakamura had seen countless images of war. Burned cities, mangled bodies, shattered starships drifting through the void. But nothing gripped her like the trembling hands of that alien child, clutching a paper with Earth's flag scrawled in messy lines. It wasn't just fear, it was hope. She stood in the Leviathan's observation deck long after the transmission had ended, hands clasped behind her back, eyes fixed on the dying light of Zarnathi Prime. The planet was quiet now. Power grids down, military forces dismantled, and a new provisional council, half human advisors, half local resistors, struggling to hold it all together. Commander Asher stepped up beside her, silent for a moment before speaking. "You're thinking about the kid, aren't you?" She didn't answer immediately, then quietly. "He shouldn't know who we are, not like this." "Maybe not, but he does, and he's not the only one." That message went viral across over 40 systems. Every outer world saw it. She finally turned to him. "We weren't supposed to be their monsters." Asher sighed. "They made us monsters. We just learned how to survive being one." In the war room, the briefing screens flickered to life again. Nox Delta's avatar shimmered above the table, voice as emotionless as ever. "New galactic chatter detected. The Thunal High Command has initiated evacuation protocols. Multiple colony worlds are abandoning their outposts. Orbital traffic has increased 600% in the last 24 hours. "Trying to run," Nakamura muttered. "They know we're coming." But this wasn't victory. It was something else. Something murkier. The line between justice and domination was blurring by the day. Nox continued. "A message has been received from Thonal Chancellor Rezeth, requesting emergency talks under the terms of the Old Concords." Asher's brow furrowed. "The Old Concords? Those haven't been honored in over 2 centuries. "Exactly," Nakamura said. "They're desperate." She approached the console, arms crossed. "Play the message." The Chancellor's image appeared, tall, insectoid, regal, but clearly rattled. His voice chittered, slightly distorted by static. "General Nakamura, I speak not only for the Thunal Dominion, but for all who remain in the Council's shadow. We acknowledge Earth's supremacy. We recognize our crimes. But continued aggression will destroy not just the guilty, but the innocent, the helpless, the unborn. Let us rebuild, together. Let us make amends before the galaxy bleeds dry." The message ended. Asher gave her a long look. "That's the first real apology we've heard." "It's not an apology," Nakamura said. "It's a plea. But maybe that's all we need right now." She looked back to the viewport. So many stars, So many enemies. But now, cracks of something else. Fear, yes, but also regret, awareness, maybe even guilt. "What's the state of our fleets?" she asked. "All major jump gates are under Earth control. Our blockades are holding. No unauthorized traffic. Resistance movements are spreading faster than expected. Half the Outer Rim governments are quietly switching sides just to avoid war." "And casualties?" Asher hesitated. "Less than 1,000 enemy combatants. Minimal civilian losses. We've kept it clean." Good. But the question still rang in her mind. How long could it stay clean? Later that evening, in the Leviathan's personal archive wing, Nakamura stood alone in front of a digital wall of memory. Thousands of names scrolled past. Humans who had died in silence, in the dark, across galaxies that had turned their backs on Earth. Each name was linked to a record, a face, a date. She reached out and touched one. Kaori Nakamura, age 29, civilian medic, Titan Station massacre, her sister, her reason for this war. She whispered to the name, "We're not done yet. But maybe there's another way." She turned and left the room, heart torn between vengeance and vision. The galaxy had watched Earth rise from ashes. Now it was watching something stranger, something new. Because Earth, the once broken world, wasn't just teaching fear anymore. It was teaching truth. And maybe, just maybe, it could teach mercy next. The war room was silent. For the first time in weeks, no alarms blared. No emergency transmissions screamed through the channels. The maps showed stability, uneasy, fragile, but real. Earth's fleets held every jump gate. Resistance movements on over 20 alien worlds had deposed their regimes. The stars, for once, didn't look so hostile. But peace, Nakamura knew, was not the absence of war. It was the quiet before the next strike. Commander Asher leaned against the edge of the tactical table, scrolling through reports. Chancellor Rezeth's request for a peace summit is gaining traction. 6 other former Council species have signed on. They want to meet at Viralan Station. Neutral ground. Symbolic location. Nakamura frowned. Viralan Station, where Earth had once begged for membership in the Galactic Council, only to be denied and humiliated. Where human ambassadors had been mocked for their primitive intellect and emotional instability. The same station where her sister had once stood, offering Earth's medical research for shared use, only to be ignored. She turned to Nox Delta. Their sincerity? Probability of genuine diplomatic intent, 74.3%, the AI replied. Margin of deception still possible, high risk of political maneuvering. Asher tilted his head. Do we give them the chance? Nakamura didn't answer immediately. Instead, she asked, "What do our people say?" Asher hesitated. There's a divide. Some want to accept the offer. They say Earth has already won. We've proven our strength. No need for further bloodshed, but, she pressed. Others say we've only just begun. They want retribution, trials, executions, planetary sanctions. They want to hurt the ones who hurt us. They want justice. She closed her eyes. Justice. That word had twisted so far from what it once meant. I'll go, she said quietly. Asher blinked. You'll attend the summit? I'll hear them out, on one condition. He straightened. Which is? She turned, eyes cold and sharp. They sit across from the names. Within hours, the Leviathan changed course. Earth's most feared flagship became a peace envoy, though no one truly believed it. As the ship broke orbit, a transmission spread through every known system. Earth accepts the summit. The truth will be remembered. Viralan Station loomed ahead, a massive silver ring built around an ancient moon. Neutral space, long abandoned, now cleaned, refitted, and prepared for the meeting that would shape the future of the galaxy. When Nakamura stepped onto the platform, the silence was deafening. No applause, no honor guards, just fear wrapped in formality. Across from her stood representatives from over a dozen species, the proud, the broken, the quietly ashamed, all of them flanked by security forces, yet visibly restrained, as though any wrong word might ignite the wrath Earth had become known for. Chancellor Rezeth rose first. His exoskeletal limbs clicked softly as he bowed, a motion once unthinkable from a Thunal. "General Nakamura," he said, "we thank you for coming." She gave no such courtesy in return. She simply gestured toward the wall behind her. A hologram flared to life. A long, endless stream of names began scrolling down. Human names, civilian names, children, doctors, teachers, colonists, soldiers. All of them lost during the years the Council ignored Earth's cries for aid. Gasps filled the room. Some lowered their heads. Others shifted uncomfortably. "These," Nakamura said, "are not numbers. These are not statistics. These are people you allowed to die, people you condemned in silence." Her voice did not tremble. "You want peace? Then look them in the eye." She stepped aside. One by one, the delegates were forced to walk past the wall of names, 1,000 souls staring back. No shields, no excuses. And as they walked, Nakamura watched their faces shift. Not from fear, but from shame. Maybe for the first time. The Thunal Chancellor finally stood before the display, trembling. "We were wrong," he whispered. "We were so terribly wrong." Nakamura gave him a single nod. "Now," she said, "let's talk about the future. And what you're going to give back." Because Earth didn't come for revenge. It came for accountability, and it wouldn't leave without it. The summit chamber was quiet now. The air felt different, heavier, as though the ghosts of Earth's past had finally entered the room. For hours, the delegates had argued, pleaded, made offers wrapped in political language, but General Nakamura remained unmoved. This wasn't about politics anymore. It was about debt, and Earth had come to collect. Chancellor Rezeth sat with his hands folded, antennae drooping low. The arrogance of the Thunal Empire had melted away, leaving only a tired creature who'd lived too long at the top. He cleared his throat. "We propose reparations, resources, access to scientific archives. We will cede planetary sectors, even dissolve military blocks. Just don't destroy what's left of us." Nakamura stared at him, then shifted her gaze to the others. Velto scientists, Zarnathi nobles, a trembling young ambassador from Core. "You still don't get it." The Core ambassador spoke up, her voice soft. "Then help us understand." Nakamura stood and stepped toward the center of the room, her voice low, but every word struck like a hammer. "You let Earth bleed. You watched as we were hunted, mocked, dismissed. You funded the sterilization of our colonies. You called us beasts, less than sentient. Even as we begged for help, you laughed behind your thrones." She paused. "And now that the monsters you created wear uniforms and pilot ships that block every jump gate you once controlled, you ask for peace." The silence was suffocating. "But Earth doesn't want your peace," she continued. "We want truth. We want your children to learn about what you did. We want every planet to know the cost of turning your back on humanity." She raised a small data core and tossed it onto the table. "Inside that is the archive of silence. Every document you buried, every war crime you denied, every Terran soul you erased. We've recovered it all, and starting tomorrow it goes public, across every network, in every tongue." Rezeth looked panicked. "That would collapse entire governments." "Good. You'd trigger civil unrest." "I hope so." He slammed his fist on the table. Then what do you want from us? She leaned in, calm as a winter storm. We want to rebuild the galaxy on our terms. A screen lit up behind her, displaying a logo never seen before, an Earth flag entwined with the symbol of Nox Delta, the eye that sees everything. The Accord of Origin, she said, a new galactic coalition led by Earth, forged by those who survived you, open to all who acknowledge the truth, but with one rule: never again will silence be tolerated. The alien leaders looked around at one another, seeing the same fear mirrored in each other's eyes. But something else too. Possibility. Asher stepped forward, placing a datapad in front of them. You'll disband the old council. Stand trial for your roles. Publicly. No backroom deals. Your scientists will share tech. Your borders will open. And your people will learn Terran history, unedited. And if we refuse? Asked one trembling Velto. Nakamura turned slowly. Then Earth stays in the sky, forever. The meaning was clear. Warships at every gate, EMPs ready, shadow ops in every vault. Earth didn't need to burn worlds. It just had to wait. The weight of that realization broke them. One by one, the delegates signed the Accord of Origin, not with joy, not with pride, but with bowed heads and trembling fingers. Not peace, surrender, but perhaps the first step to something more. When it was done, Nakamura stepped away from the table and made one final call. A direct message, broadcast through every system. This is General Aiko Nakamura of Earth. Today, a chapter ends, not in fire, but in reckoning. To those who stood with us, you are welcome at our table. To those who stood against us, let this be your warning. We will never be ignored again. The message cut, leaving a galaxy stunned. Back aboard the Leviathan, as the stars passed silently outside, Nakamura returned to the wall of names. Her hand hovered over one. Kaori Nakamura. I did it, she whispered. For you. For all of them. Then, slowly, the display changed. One name at a time. Not just the dead. Now it began listing the living. Children across alien worlds learning Terran languages. New colonies jointly governed by humans and ex-council species. The names of resistance heroes once erased from memory. It wasn't just a wall of remembrance now. It was a wall of beginning. The galaxy had feared Earth. Now it would follow it. And at last, in that vast, cold void of stars, humanity stood. Not as a victim, not as a threat, but as a leader. Because the aliens had ignored Earth's warnings. Now Earth would write the rules. Forever.